Welcome. We are here to discuss a critical topic for small businesses and entrepreneurs navigating the federal contracting landscape. Understanding the regulatory environment is paramount for success. Today, we focus on the enduring influence of policies enacted during the Trump administration. While administrations change, their policy decisions often leave a lasting imprint on government operations and procurement. For small businesses, staying informed about these continued impacts is not just beneficial. It is essential for strategic planning and competitive bidding. These policies shape opportunities and challenges alike. Ignoring these persistent effects could lead to missed opportunities or compliance issues. Our goal is to provide clarity and actionable insights for 2025 and beyond. Several key policy areas saw significant changes under the previous administration. These shifts were often codified into regulations or executive orders that remain in effect. Understanding the specifics of these changes is the first step in adapting your business strategy. We will examine the most impactful areas for government contractors. These policies were often aimed at specific economic or national security objectives. Their implementation created new rules of engagement for businesses seeking federal work. Let's delve into the primary policy categories that continue to shape the contracting environment in 2025. One of the most prominent areas of focus was strengthening Buy American provisions. These rules govern the preference for domestically produced goods in federal procurement. The Trump administration initiated significant changes to these requirements. The goal was to stimulate domestic manufacturing and reduce reliance on foreign supply chains. These changes were implemented through executive orders and subsequent regulatory updates. They altered the landscape for contractors providing goods to the government. The effects of these changes are still being felt and enforced in 2025. A major change involved increasing the required percentage of domestic content in manufactured goods. Previously, a lower threshold was sufficient to qualify as a domestic end product. The Trump administration raised this threshold incrementally. This meant a higher percentage of the cost of components had to be mined, produced, or manufactured in the United States. This change was designed to ensure that federal spending more directly supported American industries and jobs. It made qualifying under Buy American rules more stringent. For contractors, this necessitated a closer examination of their supply chains and manufacturing processes. The higher thresholds remain relevant in current solicitations. Alongside raising thresholds, there was an emphasis on stricter enforcement of Buy American rules. Agencies were directed to enhance oversight and compliance verification. Included reviewing contractor certifications and potentially auditing supply chains. The intent was to close loopholes and prevent non-compliant foreign goods from being purchased. This increased scrutiny means contractors face a higher risk of penalties for non-compliance. Due diligence in verifying the origin of goods is more critical than ever. The focus on robust enforcement continues to influence how agencies manage contracts involving manufactured goods. Contractors must be prepared for rigorous review. In some instances, the scope of products and materials subject to Buy American or similar domestic preference rules was expanded. This brought more procurement actions under these requirements. This expansion could involve specific categories of goods deemed critical for national security or economic resilience. It broadened the application of domestic sourcing mandates. Contractors need to be aware if the products or materials they supply fall under these expanded categories. What might have been exempt before could now be covered. Staying updated on agency-specific implementations of these rules is crucial. The reach of domestic preference requirements has grown. Small business set-asides are a cornerstone of federal contracting policy, designed to ensure a portion of contracts goes to small firms. While the core policy remains, nuances can shift. The Trump administration's approach to small business programs involved various initiatives. some focused on specific types of small businesses or streamlining processes. No fundamental overhaul of the set-aside system occurred. There were points of emphasis and potential regulatory adjustments that continue to have relevance. Understanding these persistent influences helps small businesses position themselves effectively within the set-aside framework. While major, sweeping changes to size standards are less frequent, the process for reviewing and potentially adjusting them continued. Any adjustments made during that period persist. Furthermore, interpretations or enforcement priorities regarding eligibility for specific socioeconomic programs could see subtle shifts. These nuances matter for qualifying businesses. Small businesses must continuously verify their eligibility status based on current size standards and program requirements. Relying on outdated information is risky. Any regulatory changes to size standards or eligibility rules enacted then are still the baseline for participation in set-aside programs today. There was often an emphasis on leveraging specific socioeconomic programs to meet agency goals. This focus could highlight categories like service-disabled veteran-owned small businesses or hub-zone firms. While the programs themselves existed, the administrative focus or priority given to them could influence contracting opportunities. This emphasis can linger within agency procurement strategies. Small businesses in targeted socioeconomic categories may find continued opportunities if agencies maintain these priorities. Marketing your specific status remains important. Understanding which categories receive particular attention can inform a small business's strategy for pursuing set-aside contracts. Large prime contractors are required to have subcontracting plans that include small businesses. Regulations governing these plans can be updated. It might involve how goals are set, how performance is reported, or the level of scrutiny applied to these plans. Any such changes from the Trump era are still in effect. Small businesses seeking subcontracting opportunities should understand the current requirements placed on prime contractors. This knowledge can inform partnership discussions. Prime contractors' obligations regarding small business utilization, shaped by past regulatory updates, continue to create opportunities for subcontractors. Administrations often signal priorities that influence where federal spending is directed. The Trump administration articulated clear priorities that continue to resonate in agency budgets and solicitations. These priorities shape the types of goods and services the government seeks to acquire. For contractors, aligning with these priorities is key to identifying opportunities. Understanding these enduring priorities helps small businesses focus their marketing and business development efforts on relevant sectors and agencies. These shifts weren't just about what was bought, but sometimes how it was bought. The Trump administration placed a strong emphasis on areas like defense spending and infrastructure development. This directed significant procurement dollars towards these sectors. While current administration priorities also play a role, the momentum and funding streams initiated for these sectors often continue. Long-term projects persist. Small businesses with capabilities in defense, construction, engineering, or related fields may find continued opportunities stemming from these past priorities. Monitoring agency budgets and long-term spending plans in these sectors is advisable for relevant contractors. Beyond Buy American, there was a broader focus on securing critical supply chains and reducing dependence on foreign adversaries. This influenced procurement decisions across various sectors. This priority led to increased scrutiny of contractor supply chains, particularly for sensitive goods or technologies. It favored contractors with secure, preferably domestic sourcing. This focus remains highly relevant in 2025, driven by ongoing geopolitical considerations. Businesses demonstrating supply chain resilience and security have a competitive advantage. Contractors should be prepared to articulate their supply chain management practices and highlight domestic sourcing where possible. were made to potentially streamline or modify aspects of the federal procurement process. This could involve changes to solicitation formats, evaluation procedures, or contract types. While wholesale changes are difficult to implement quickly, any regulatory adjustments or pilot programs initiated could still be in effect or have influenced current practices. Staying updated on agency-specific procurement procedures is always necessary. Past efforts to modify these processes may still impact how solicitations are structured and evaluated. Businesses should review the specific instructions in each solicitation carefully, as they reflect the current procedural landscape potentially shaped by past initiatives. The policies discussed don't just exist in a vacuum. They have tangible effects on the day-to-day reality of pursuing and performing government contracts. These effects manifest at various stages of the contracting lifecycle, from identifying opportunities to bidding and contract execution. Understanding these practical impacts is crucial for small businesses to navigate the current environment effectively. It requires adapting internal processes and strategies. Let's explore how these enduring policies specifically influence contracting activities in 2025. The bidding process is the first major hurdle for contractors. Trump-era policies continue to shape the requirements and evaluation criteria within solicitations. Contractors must pay close attention to the details of each request for proposal, RFP, or solicitation. These documents reflect the current regulatory landscape. Failure to understand how past policy changes influence current bidding rules can lead to non-compliant or non-competitive proposals. Adapting your proposal writing and submission process is essential. Due to the stricter Buy American enforcement and higher thresholds, solicitations often require more detailed documentation regarding the origin and cost of components. Contractors may need to provide certifications, lists of components, and information about where manufacturing processes occurred. This adds complexity to proposal preparation. Gathering and organizing this information takes time and effort. Small businesses need robust internal systems to track supply chain data accurately. Proposals must clearly demonstrate compliance with domestic content rules, backed by thorough documentation. Evaluation criteria in solicitations may explicitly favor bids that exceed minimum domestic content requirements or demonstrate secure domestic supply chains. These might assign higher technical scores or apply price preferences based on the degree of domestic sourcing. This makes domestic capability a competitive advantage. Small businesses that can meet or exceed domestic preference requirements are better positioned to win contracts subject to these rules. Highlighting this capability in proposals is key. Understanding how domestic content is weighted in the evaluation criteria allows businesses to tailor their bids strategically. The increased complexity of compliance and documentation requirements can potentially lead to longer or more complex bid reviews by government evaluators. Agencies need time to verify domestic content claims and assess supply chain security. This due diligence is part of the stricter enforcement approach. While not universally true for all solicitations, contractors should be prepared for the possibility that the evaluation phase might take longer, especially for complex manufacturing contracts. Patience and responsiveness to agency questions during the review period are important. Ultimately, the goal of bidding is to win a contract. Trump-era policies continue to influence which businesses are successful in securing awards. The factors emphasized during the bidding process directly impact award decisions. Compliance and alignment with priorities are rewarded. The competitive landscape is shaped by these enduring rules. Businesses that adapt are more likely to succeed. Let's look at how these policies affect the final award outcomes. As mentioned, bids that clearly demonstrate compliance with or even exceed the higher domestic content thresholds are likely to receive preference. This preference can be decisive in competitive procurements where technical merit and price are otherwise similar. Domestic sourcing becomes a differentiator. Small businesses that have successfully adjusted their supply chains to meet these requirements are better positioned to win contracts subject to Buy American rules. This reinforces the need to prioritize domestic sourcing where feasible and required. The combined effect of prioritizing certain sectors, emphasizing domestic sourcing, and focusing on specific socioeconomic categories can influence the profile of winning contractors. Businesses aligned with defense or infrastructure, those with strong domestic supply chains, or those in prioritized socioeconomic groups may see increased success. Conversely, businesses heavily reliant on foreign components or operating in sectors not currently prioritized might face greater challenges. Recent contract awards can provide insights into which types of businesses and capabilities are currently favored. Agencies are conducting more thorough reviews of compliance documentation before making awards. This is part of the stricter enforcement mandate. Contractors may be asked to clarify documentation or provide additional proof of domestic content or supply chain security during the pre-award phase. Ensuring all compliance documentation is accurate, complete, and readily available is crucial to avoid delays or disqualification at this critical stage. The award is not final until compliance is verified to the agency's satisfaction. Beyond individual bids and awards, these policies have contributed to shaping the broader environment in which government contracting operates in 2025. They influence agency planning, industry trends, and the overall risk assessment for businesses pursuing federal work. Understanding this larger context helps small businesses develop long-term strategies. The environment is more complex in certain areas. These enduring influences are part of the new normal in federal procurement. The focus on supply chain security initiated under the Trump administration has only intensified due to global events. Resilience is a major concern for agencies. Contractors who can demonstrate robust, secure, and ideally diversified supply chains are highly valued. Reducing reliance on single points of failure, especially in potentially unstable regions, is key. Emphasis affects procurement across many sectors, not just manufacturing. Services that support supply chain analysis or security are also in demand. Small businesses should assess their own supply chain vulnerabilities and highlight their resilience in proposals. With the increased emphasis on domestic sourcing and stricter enforcement, agencies may be less inclined to grant waivers for purchasing foreign end products. Are typically granted only under specific circumstances such as non-availability of domestic sources or unreasonable cost. The bar for proving these conditions may be higher. Contractors should assume that domestic sourcing is the default expectation. Relying on the possibility of obtaining a waiver is a risky strategy. Market research to identify domestic sources is more important than ever before seeking a waiver. While federal regulations provide the framework, individual agencies implement procurement policies based on their specific missions and priorities. Trump-era directives and priorities have likely been integrated into agency-level acquisition strategies and long-term planning documents. Small businesses should research the specific procurement forecasts and strategic plans of the agencies they target. These documents often reflect enduring priorities. Understanding an agency's specific approach to domestic sourcing or supply chain security is vital for tailoring your business development efforts. Small businesses face unique challenges and opportunities in navigating the federal contracting world. The enduring effects of Trump-era policies amplify some of these. Their smaller size can make compliance burdens heavier, but also allows for agility in adapting to new requirements. Understanding these specific impacts helps small businesses prepare and position themselves effectively. It's about turning challenges into opportunities. Let's examine the particular ways these policies affect small firms. Small businesses often have fewer resources than large corporations. This can make complying with complex or changing regulations more difficult. The administrative burden and potential costs associated with adapting to new rules can be significant for smaller firms. Navigating the complexities requires dedicated effort and expertise. Here are some specific challenges small businesses may face. Federal regulations, especially those related to sourcing and manufacturing, are inherently complex. Updates or stricter interpretations add layers of difficulty. Small businesses may lack dedicated compliance departments or legal counsel to track and interpret these rules effectively. Staying current requires proactive effort, monitoring government websites, and seeking expert advice. Misinterpreting rules can lead to costly errors. The dynamic nature of regulations demands continuous learning and adaptation. As domestic sourcing becomes more critical, larger domestic firms may become more competitive for contracts they previously might not have pursued as aggressively. Other small businesses that have successfully adapted to the new requirements also become stronger competitors. The playing field shifts. Small businesses need to differentiate themselves beyond just meeting the minimum requirements. Value proposition and past performance become even more important. Analyzing the competitive landscape for specific solicitations is crucial. Small businesses involved in manufacturing or supplying goods, finding components that meet the higher domestic content thresholds can be challenging. Supply chains are global, and shifting to domestic sources may require finding new suppliers, potentially at higher costs or with longer lead times. Verifying the domestic origin of components from sub-tier suppliers adds another layer of complexity and administrative burden. This requires significant effort in supply chain mapping and supplier qualification. The requirement for detailed documentation on domestic content and supply chains adds a significant administrative load. Small businesses may need to invest in systems or personnel to track this information meticulously for every relevant contract. This takes time away from core business activities like proposal writing or contract performance. It's a non-trivial overhead cost. Developing efficient internal processes for documentation is essential to manage this burden. Despite the challenges, these policy shifts also create new opportunities for agile and well-prepared small businesses. The emphasis on domestic capabilities and specific sectors can open doors that were previously less accessible. Small businesses are often well-positioned to respond quickly to changing market demands. Let's look at the potential upsides for small firms. The government's preference for domestic sourcing translates into increased demand for goods and services that meet these criteria. Small businesses that manufacture domestically or provide services utilizing domestic resources are directly aligned with this priority. This creates a favorable market for businesses with existing domestic capabilities or those willing to invest in developing them. Highlighting your domestic operations is a strong selling point. Large prime contractors face the same domestic sourcing requirements. They often rely on small business subcontractors to help meet these mandates and their small business utilization goals. Small businesses with verified domestic capabilities can become valuable partners for primes. This opens up subcontracting opportunities. Networking with prime contractors and making your domestic capabilities known is a proactive strategy for securing work. These partnerships can provide a stable source of revenue and valuable experience. The continued emphasis on sectors like defense, cybersecurity, and infrastructure creates sustained demand for related goods and services. Small businesses with expertise in these areas can find numerous opportunities, both as prime contractors on smaller set-aside contracts and as subcontractors on larger projects. Aligning your business offerings with these priority sectors increases your chances of identifying relevant solicitations. Monitoring agency spending in these areas is key to spotting trends. Agencies may use small business set-asides strategically to meet procurement goals, including those related to domestic sourcing or specific sector needs. This means set-aside opportunities may increasingly align with the priorities shaped by past policies. Small businesses in prioritized socioeconomic categories with capabilities in high-demand sectors are particularly well-positioned. Actively searching for set-aside solicitations that match your capabilities and the current priorities is crucial. Navigating this environment requires proactive steps. Small businesses cannot afford to be passive observers of policy changes. Taking deliberate action to understand, comply with, and leverage the current rules is essential for success in government contracting in 2025. Here is practical, actionable advice for small businesses. These steps will help you mitigate risks and capitalize on opportunities. Compliance is non-negotiable in government contracting. Errors can lead to contract termination, penalties, or even debarment. Given the increased scrutiny on areas like domestic sourcing, robust compliance strategies are paramount. Investing time and resources in understanding and implementing compliance procedures is a necessary cost of doing business with the government. Here are key strategies for ensuring compliance. Do not rely on outdated information. Regulations can be complex and subject to interpretation. Consult the Federal Acquisition Regulation, FAR, and Defense Federal Acquisition Regulation Supplement, DFARS, directly. Pay attention to agency-specific supplements. Understand the difference between Buy American Act, Trade Agreements Act, and other related domestic preference rules, as they have different requirements and applicability. Seek clarification from contracting officers or compliance experts when in doubt. Assess your current supply chain and manufacturing processes. Identify potential areas of non-compliance with current domestic content thresholds. Update your internal procedures for tracking the origin of components and materials. Ensure your team understands the importance of these rules. Implement quality control measures to verify supplier certifications and documentation related to domestic content. Proactive internal review is better than reactive damage control. Detailed and accurate records are your defense in case of a compliance review or audit. Comprehensive documentation for all components, including origin, cost, and any certifications from suppliers. Organize records in a way that allows for easy retrieval and verification. Be prepared to provide this information upon request. Good record keeping is not just about compliance, it's good business practice. Meeting compliance requirements is necessary, but it's not always sufficient to win. Your bid must also be competitive and compelling. Tailoring your proposals to the current environment and highlighting your strengths is key. Understanding what agencies are prioritizing helps you craft winning bids. Here are tips for making your bids stand out. Explicitly state how your company meets or exceeds domestic content requirements. Provide clear and concise documentation as required by the solicitation. A strong domestic supply chain or manufacturing presence, emphasize this as a strength and a benefit to the government. Your domestic capabilities in terms of supply chain security and resilience, aligning with current agency priorities. Make it easy for evaluators to see your compliance and domestic value. The specific agency issuing the solicitation. What are their stated goals, recent awards, and strategic plans? Tailor your technical approach and past performance examples to align with the agency's mission and current focus areas, including any enduring priorities from past administrations. Show how your solution helps the agency meet its objectives, including those related to domestic sourcing or supply chain security. A generic proposal is less likely to succeed than a tailored one. Many opportunities for small businesses come through subcontracting. Prime contractors need reliable partners, especially those who help them meet domestic sourcing and small business goals. Attend industry events, connect with prime contractor small business liaison officers, and market your specific capabilities, particularly your domestic ones. Being a trusted subcontractor can lead to repeat business and valuable experience on larger contracts. Contracting is a vital pathway for small businesses in the federal market. Small businesses don't have to navigate this complex landscape alone. Numerous resources are available to provide guidance and assistance. Leveraging these resources can save time, reduce risk, and improve your chances of success. These organizations and websites offer expertise and support specifically tailored to government contractors. Make use of the help that is available. The SBA is a primary resource for small businesses pursuing federal contracts. They offer training, counseling, and information on set-aside programs. Their website provides details on size standards, eligibility, and federal procurement regulations. Connect with your local SBA district office or utilize their online resources for general guidance on government contracting. The SBA is a foundational resource for any small federal contractor. PTACs, now rebranded as Apex Accelerators, are funded by the Department of Defense and administered by local organizations. They provide free or low-cost assistance to businesses seeking government contracts, offer help with understanding regulations, finding solicitations, preparing bids, and navigating compliance issues, including Buy American rules. Accelerators have counselors with expertise in federal procurement. They are an invaluable resource for detailed guidance. Find your local Apex Accelerator and schedule a consultation. Reliable information is key. Regularly check official government websites like acquisition.gov, SAM.gov, and agency-specific procurement sites for updates on regulations and solicitations. Join industry associations relevant to your sector or business type. These associations often provide updates on policy changes, training, and networking opportunities. Subscribing to relevant newsletters and attending webinars can help you stay ahead of the curve. Continuous learning is essential in the dynamic world of government contracting. While we have focused on the lasting impact of tasked policies, the regulatory environment is not static. It continues to evolve. Current administration priorities and global events will also shape future procurement rules and enforcement. Small businesses must remain adaptable and forward-looking. Here are some considerations for potential future developments. The current administration may initiate its own regulatory changes or alter the enforcement priorities of existing rules. While the core Buy American framework is likely to remain, specific thresholds, waiver processes, or compliance verification methods could be adjusted. Stay alert for proposed rules or executive orders that could impact procurement. Public comments are often solicited on proposed changes. Being aware of potential changes allows for proactive preparation. The current administration has its own set of priorities, such as climate change, equity, and cybersecurity. These priorities can influence how existing procurement rules are applied or interpreted. For example, domestic sourcing might be linked to sustainability goals, or supply chain security might emphasize cybersecurity risks. Understand how the current administration's agenda might intersect with and build upon existing policies. Aligning with current priorities while adhering to existing rules is a smart strategy. The constant potential for policy evolution underscores the need for small businesses to build adaptability into their core operations.